He is the BKFC welterweight champ, the lightweight champ, the pound for pound #1. The man got so many belts he can't even carry them all around anymore. It's Luis Palomino, man. Talk to me about how you're feeling right now. You got to be riding high after this latest win.
Yes, definitely. Very, very good feeling and very unexplainable. People keep asking me, and I can't put it into words, man. It's the best feeling I've ever had in my life, that's for sure.
I see a little bit of the hardware behind you. You got so much. Do you even have a place to display it all anymore, man? You got so many belts.
Here you go. You give a little. You got a few there. You got the other few there. We keep it busy. We keep it busy.
I love it, man. That's amazing. So, Luis, talk to me about this, right? I mean, bare knuckle, I feel like it's just like a whole new chapter in your combat sports career, man. It's like you're competing at a higher level than ever, man. So what has this ride felt like? Were you expecting this type of success when you transitioned over to bare knuckle?
I mean, to answer that question, success, I definitely knew that I would find success in this game because it's tailor-made for me. You know, the problems that I've had in the past, I did 17 years fighting pro, a good about 15, 16 years of MMA. And I did pretty well for having started the way that I started with no amateur fights. I didn't have a sparring partner from the first 10 fights, I don't know anything about weight cutting, but it's like all of that prepped me for bare knuckle. Bare knuckle surfaces, and they're telling me that I don't have to worry about people trying to take me down or trying to kick me. And I'm like, okay, so I can let these hands go and I got to deal with it? Okay, boom, let's go. So success was definitely in the horizon for me. Just very grateful that it actually has played out the way it has.
Yeah, unquestionably. I mean, I think at this point you're kind of an ambassador for the sport, man, because you're such a champion in it. So I guess for those, Luis, that maybe still a little on the edge about bare knuckle, like, oh, is this too barbaric? Is this too rough? I mean, it kind of reminds me of when MMA was gaining popularity, to be honest with you, the pushback. What do you say to those people who may say, I don't know, man, I like MMA, but that bare knuckle, it's too barbaric?
I don't know. I don't even remember hearing anybody say too barbaric. And even those that try to look at it, like my mom's a perfect example. My mom's like, no, I'm not watching any of your fights. And then after I did a couple of wins, my first fights, I'm like, Mom, don't worry about it. I'm not getting hurt. And she looks at it. She's a bigger fan than I am. She watches fights that are going on in Brazil that I never even heard of. I don't know what cage they're fighting in. And I'm like, oh, did you see the fight last night? I'm like, what do you mean? It was weekday yesterday. Like, no, there was some fights in Brazil. I'm like, oh my gosh, she finds like fights everywhere. So to get to that question, man, is think about it like this, right? You still have today, even though MMA, even though the UFC, Pride, all these big organizations have found a home in the combat sports and the sport, right? The biggest sport in combat sports history, right? We are now at that peak. We are now the fastest combat growing sport in the world. Now the difference is how easy it is to understand our show. In MMA today, even today, you have fans like, boo, stand them up. What are they doing? They're hugging. They don't understand what grappling is. They don't understand what wrestling is. Like worldwide, you still have some masses out there that don't understand very much. How much is it to understand a bare knuckle? Cut, go to sleep. Cut, go to sleep. Did you see that knockout? Did you see that cut? It's very easy to understand. So I think it's getting its own strength now. It's taking off, and it's only going to get bigger from now on.
I love it. Yeah, definitely gaining steam. What do you think? I mean, now that you've had experience, this isn't just 1 or 2 fights. I mean, you're 7 fights in at this point. What would you say? Is this an outlet that MMA fighters should be looking at either post MMA career, or maybe even should they be jumping in sooner? I mean, should guys that are kind of on the fence one way or the other, should they jump in early in their career, or is it something they should wait later? Like, what would you recommend for fighters that may be kind of thinking, maybe I want to do that?
That's a really good question. The only 2 ways that I can answer it is, one, if you are that type of boxing brawler mentality, that type of striker, that I'm talking about, like not even caring about kicks, like just like you like to trade with your hands, you feel comfortable with your hands, and you want to go into a future with this, do so. It's either that way, or I would rather wait because there is experience to this game. So I think that my experience in MMA, my experience in all the years of training and competing, has brought me to be able to dictate the way that we're dictating our fights today, the way that I'm dictating my camps. Like all the experience that I've learned is like the amateurs that I didn't have for MMA. my professional MMA career was my amateur fights for bare knuckle. Like, I'm not making any mistakes when it comes to my dieting, weight cutting, the training, the preparation, the recovery between training that people don't think about, that people don't talk about, because most fighters are in their 20s, 30s, you know. But when you hit those 40s, man, you feel it. It takes a little longer to recover. It takes longer to get in shape. You know, that's why I never want to stay inactive. I want to stay active at this age. But I would lean more towards experience. I would say get more experience, because this game is only growing, man. And you know, later it's going to be even better for you, especially if you developed some type of character and some type of following through your MMA career, whether it was MMA or glove boxing or Muay Thai or kickboxing. If you've done some sort of combat sports and you have it under your belt, you're going to come in with some sort of experience. I think that coming in with experience, it's better on your side. I would say so.
Yeah. No question about it. You know, you're talking about this experience and the things you've learned. I noticed that you're volunteering your time to start teaching this to people, right? You're giving back to the community a little bit to help teach these lessons that it took you 17 years to learn. So I guess kind of what was your motivation for that, for saying, man, I want to share these lessons that I have with the up and comers?
I like helping people. That's like a thing of nature. I really enjoy that. My wife does too. My wife and I love doing things for the community, love doing things to help. We just don't post about it all the time. We're always doing things to help because we like doing that. It's just that, you know, we're giving people, you know. Lately, what I've been doing is I've been donating my time to the Young Tigers Foundation. And the next one that I'm doing is not going to be at the Young Tigers Foundation, which is my gym, Eric Castaños. It's our gym. It's a low-income gym, you know, where kids are in trouble, you know, people like when I was growing up. And when I was growing up, I had a mestre de ley. So this is my capoeira name from my second mestre. My capoeira name from my first mestre. Mestre de ley, you know, the logo was a baboon, and they named me after the baboon, right after the logo. So that's where my name comes from, right? And then I had a second master and whatnot. But that very first master taught me a lesson back in the days. I'm big in gratitude, and I've been in business since very young, right? And I would always tell him, thank you, coach, or, you know, thank you, masters, what you call masters, what you call in capoeira, right? Thank you, master. Thank you, master. I was always very, very thankful. And I think I annoyed him a little bit, like always saying thank you for everything, because he would take care of all of us, man. He would feed us, take us to train. He wouldn't charge me. He would take us to places to do capoeira shows, make some money, you know? And he says, look, stop with that. I know you're thankful. What you need to do is somebody's going to come into your life, or some people are going to come into your life the way that you did it, you came into mine, and it's going to be your time to help them. And it's very funny because my wife and I are very similar with those type of things. And she tells me the same thing years later. I'm talking about, like, I was like 14 years old when I heard this, you know? And like, man, I was just thinking about that the other day. You just reminded me of one of the greatest lessons I've ever heard, you know, from a martial artist. In the martial arts world, it's like somebody's going to come to you for help that person. You know, you're going to be in a position to be able to help that person, and so on. And that person will be in a position to help somebody else, and so on. And in the martial arts, you know, mentality, the way of being, you know, that was a lesson that was pushed to me, and it was reminded to me not too long ago. I mean, even though I do those things, now I focus. And so what I'm doing to answer your question better is every last Friday of the month, I'll go to Young Tigers Foundation. This time I'm going to do it open where other gyms can come. And I share my experience as far as those things that you're kind of like, you come out of high school, right? And you have no idea what it is to have a perfect credit score, how to build credit, you know, like those things, that how to manage your money, how to manage your time, those things that you should have been taught in school, you're not really taught. So now you're like out like, okay, I guess I'm partying right now, you know? And you don't have no clue as to what real life is until it slaps you in the face. So the same thing with these young fighters. These young fighters are coming into the fight world thinking it's going to be all fun and games. I'm going to be a champion. And it's great to have the mentality. It's great to come into the game believing in yourself that you can be a champion, that you will be a champion. But there's a lot to this game, man. You know, there's a lot to this game. So I try to teach the kids, you know, are you cutting weight properly? Are you recovering properly? The things that Dad didn't get taught, you know. Do you know about cutting weight? How to cut weight? How much water you should cut? How much body fat percentage you should be at? How much what you should eat to recover? How you should recover? Like all of those little things, you know. How do you sell yourself? Are you on top of your social media? Because now the Jake brothers, the Jake Paul brothers will tell you, like you got to sell yourself. Are you marketing yourself? How are you marketing yourself? How do you sell yourself when you go in and you're going to just sit there and ask for sponsors? Like, how do you get a sponsor? How do you make yourself, tangible for a sponsor to even be interested in you? So I help them by showing them the way that I sell myself. I've managed myself almost my entire career. You know what I mean? Now I have a good management company, I have a management group. Ralph Navarro, Christopher Navarro, we're working together. But I really learned a lot of this stuff on my own. So I'm sharing these things with the fighters that are upcoming and putting them in the head. Like, for example, right? You have other fighters that put 100% into the fight game. What if something happens to you? What if you break a hand? What if you cut off a hand? What if you lose a limb? What if, you have a concussion? Because I have a friend that had professional fights. He fought Mayweather in the amateurs. He was like 14-0 professional boxer, one motorcycle accident, he can't fight no more. So what happens then? What's your backup plan? You know what I mean? Like, if you're young, are you going to college for something that can help you later on in the future? If you're not that young and you're an adult now, you have bills to pay, are you making enough money to support yourself while you get that paycheck you're waiting on, or are you fighting check to check? These are the things that people are not putting into consideration. So I try to explain to them and teach them out of my own experience so that, yes, go and fight for yours, but you got to have some sort of backup plan. You know what I mean? And you got to have a little more knowledge on how to sell yourself and put yourself out there. So those are the things that I'm sharing right now with everybody.
That's awesome, man. It's such valuable information because, obviously the training, the actual stuff that you do on the mats, in the cage, that's important. But all those things that you just mentioned, that's a massive part of the sport, a massive part of the industry.
Nobody's talking about it. Yes, nobody's talking about it. And you learn about it throughout your career, throughout you being professional. Next thing you know, you're fighting check to check. And you're like, okay, what's going on next? Like, you're just depending on the next check and the next check. And next thing you know, when you're fighting check to check like that, you make it easy for promoters. Well, he's starving. Well, you're going to fight so-and-so today. You know what I mean? And they're going to dictate your career. So you got to take a little control of your life, That's what I'm trying to teach.
Much respect for that, man. All right. Well, hey, do you still train MMA? I saw you getting some sparring in at MMA Masters. Are you still training, the full gambit of MMA techniques, or are you basically just bare knuckle boxing these days?
No, man, bare knuckle boxing. I've zeroed into bare knuckle boxing. My team and I, we've created a really good route into getting in shape in camp, not getting hurt, avoiding injuries, and constantly improving the game. But no, to answer that, no, I haven't put no mind, no training whatsoever at MMA. I do go by MMA Masters once in a while. My old trainers over there, a lot of old training partners, very good sparring partners over there. And I like to move around from a different sparring partners. I pay. So I'll pay to spar with good people, But, you get to that level, you got to do it. You want good sparring? Like, look, I grew up in gyms just sparring. I was sparring 3-4 times a week. And most of the guys were heavier than me. I got enough damage. It's like, right now, my sparring is specific, 6 weeks out, specifically tailored to the guy that I'm fighting. Other than that, I don't spar.
You got this thing broken down to a science, my man, at this point.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
I love it. Well, listen, like you said, you got all the belts. You got the #1 pound for pound. It's tough. There's nowhere to go up from here. So what are your goals right now? Like, what's driving you? What's the plan from here? Because you're in that #1 spot right now.
Yeah, well, I remember my teachers always saying it's harder to keep an A than to get an A. So it's harder to remain undefeated. It's harder to remain the champion, once you become one. So for me right now, it's zero focus on the career, zero focus on my last fights, because we do have to, talk about it like that. They are my last fights. We don't know exactly how many fights I'm doing. I feel real good. I'm not gonna lie to you. As far as my reaction, my speed, my training, I feel good. I don't have no injuries that are slowing me down. Not in this game. If it was MMA, I would tell you, I'm done. I have torn ligaments in the same knee, bad toe, like you name it. But for bare knuckle boxing, I'm doing great. We just captured a 165-pound belt. So like I always said it, to me, and I'm not putting Brito under nothing. He fought like a complete champion that he was. But in the end of the day, this is the way that I look at things, and this is the way that most martial artists look at things. And most martial artists or fighters, right? You're not the champion until you defend that title. So until I don't defend that title, I don't consider myself the 165-pound champion. I captured the belt. I captured it. I got the title. Okay, I'm the pound for pound, 100%. I believe that, but I have to defend that belt. So I did speak about defending both belts simultaneously. There's only one way that's going to get me out of the 155-pound belt. You might ask that question, but right now, defending both belts simultaneously is what I'm focused for.
I love it, man. I love it. So, what would get you outside of it? What would be that would get you to move somewhere else?
The only way that I relinquish the 155-pound belt and without even fighting for it, like, look, I don't want to keep the numbers inactive. I don't want to keep the opponents inactive. So I'm gonna stay active. So we're looking at October, Peru. Okay. I asked for Chad Mendes. I asked for a big name. I know that there's been a lot of people mentioning Tom Shove. He's up there. Something about him being next in line. I fight whoever the company tells me to fight. I don't pick and choose. If I can pick and choose, I'm gonna pick a money fight. Anybody in my position would. Anybody, I've earned it. I have 7-0. I'm the pound for pound, and I can use some money fight. Yes, why not? I'm 41 years old. You never know which one is gonna be my last fight. So I'm gonna ask for the money fight, but I'm not gonna say no to Dave Feldman when he says, "Hey, you're fighting this guy." If he says that you're fighting this guy, I'm fighting that guy. Period. So, number one, defend the 55-pound title. I just got the 65. And as soon as I defend that, I go back up to 165 to defend. Meanwhile, you want me to relinquish the 155 pound. You want me to leave the category alone? There's only one way that's going to do it, and that's Tyler Goodjob. El Tornado is becoming a complete different fighter. He is a complete different fighter, a complete different person. He's growing not only as a fighter, but he's growing as a person. He's maturing. He has a management team behind him now, which is my management team. Is Ralph Navarro, Christopher Navarro. It's us. It's us three. We take care of this management team. We're managing Tornado. And the way that I see it is this way. Look, he lost to the champion. That's his only loss. I'm not saying that he's up for title fight. But let's say, for example, he's going to fight James Lilly right now. James Lilly's ranked number 2. James Lilly, he got a name for himself. He just came off a right-hand knockout. Looked phenomenal. I believe Tyler takes him out. I believe it's a knockout Rio. That puts him what, in number 2? So if we got to do another fight, who's number 1 for him to fight? You know what I mean? Who's number 1? Let's say in a perfect world, this is just me throwing names out. Let's say they end up, Chad Mendes doesn't take the fight and they give me Tom Shove, right? And Tom Shove just came out of losing to the champion. He's not beating me. He just came out of losing to the champion. Tornado just beat James Lilly to number 2. Let them fight it out. You know what I mean? Let them fight it out for number 1 contender. Tom Shove can beat Tornado. I'll give him another shot. No problem. But I don't think he gets past me. I don't think he gets past Tornado. And just to answer that question one more time, man, the only time that I'm going to let go of that belt is when Tornado is ready to pick it up. When I can pass the baton to him, then I'll let it go. And that means he'll fight whoever he needs to fight. I don't make the rules here. I don't call the shots here. That's just what I'm putting out in the universe. You know what I mean? I think that if he only lost to the champion, if he fights a number 2 contender right now and he beats him, knocks him out, right? Beats him, then there's only one more fight to make. Make him fight a number 1 contender and title shot. Let him. And right there, I'll leave the 155-pound division alone. I'm 41. I'd rather not cut down to 155 anymore. I'd rather stay at 165. I have breakfast every day of training, man. So I'd rather stay at 165.
I love it, man. Not only are you doing great things for yourself, but you're trying to help the team out too, carving out the path, carving out the scenario, man. That's a good team member right there. Well, Luis, I won't take any more of your time, man. I just wanted to say congratulations on the latest win. And, man, just to let you know what a pleasure it is from us hardcore MMA fans that remember the battles with Justin Gaethje, that saw the travels all over the years. It's a pleasure to see you doing big things over in bare knuckle, my man.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate you. Appreciate your time, man. That Justin Gaethje fight, that's I hold on for it. If he, look, Gaethje, just for Gaethje, you want to get me out of retirement with the blessing of Feldman, it's only from fighting with Gaethje, whether it's MMA or bare knuckle. But I would much rather it be bare knuckle. Let him come to the dark side. Gaethje would be a dog in bare knuckle, man. He would be a dog.
Oh man, yeah. Now you just got me excited, man. I wasn't even thinking about that. I mean, I know he's got big things going on in the UFC right now, but yes, what he's done with the UFC.
Hey, Chad Mendes was allowed to fight in bare knuckle out of a contract.
It's true.
You never know. Chad Mendes passed the contract with UFC. If they want to let they want to let him cross over for a little bit, come to the dark side. I'm open. I'm game for it.
Hey, I'll go ahead and co-sign on that. I'm just gonna say I'm voting for that. I'll put in a word. We'll see what we can do. We'll talk to Dana. We'll talk to Justin. We'll see what we can get done. Sign me up for a third fight in bare knuckle. We know it'd be fun.
Oh yes, barn burner, man.